I'm Luke Lovett. I'm performing with GotDidge.com. I'm here to explain a few things about the didgeridoo. This is a traditional Aboriginal instrument from Australia. And I'll explain a few of the basic techniques in the playing of the didgeridoo. Now, this didgeridoo was built by my friend Sean. This is constructed out of PVC. A lot of didgeridoos, modern didgeridoos, are constructed out of PVC. The didgeridoo is a woodwind, and the PVC type of didgeridoo has a particularly bright sound. Originally, didgeridoos were constructed from eucalyptus, and these branches of eucalyptus would fall to the ground and be hollowed out by termites, and those formed the original didgeridoos. Some other common didgeridoo materials include agave cactus and other types of hardwood. And the wooden didgeridoos tend to have a warmer sound, but as you'll soon see, this PVC didgeridoo has a particularly bright sound, and it's pretty good for articulation. The first thing that you want to master with the didgeridoo is being able to produce the basic drone. Drone is produced on a didgeridoo with a similar embouchure as you would approach a tuba or a trombone. It's very loose, sort of like a horse would do with his lips. Just really loosely. Just have to master this first part. Now, a lot of didgeridoo players prefer to play front on in the didgeridoo. I myself prefer to approach the didgeridoo at more of an angle. Either way, it's whatever you feel comfortable with. So I personally find that I can get a greater diversity of sound approaching it from the side, but again, it's whatever you feel comfortable with. So once you've gotten that, you want to try doing this on the didgeridoo itself. So you'll want to go for very loose lips when you're trying to produce the drum. Just like when you play it on the didgeridoo, it should sound something like this. Again, I play from the side, but you can go at direct on if you choose to play that way. If you play the didgeridoo too loosely with your lips, it might sound like this. It sounds very airy, and it's very low. So if you hear that sound coming from your didgeridoo, just try to tighten up your lips a little bit more so you can get this drum. Going in the other direction when your lips might be too tight, you might get something that sounds a little bit more like a trumpet. Or an elephant, maybe. If you hear either of those sounds coming from your didgeridoo, just try to loosen up a little bit more. Just try just to do the lip movement in the air, and then bring it onto your didgeridoo. And once you've gotten the basic sound of the drone, you will want to try to practice this until you can hold the drone without having to take a breath for maybe 20 or 30 seconds. This is a good, healthy amount of time to learn how to do a drone. And then once you've gotten to that part, then you'll have to work on something called circular breathing, which we'll cover later in order to extend your drone for an indefinite amount of time. But for now, just try to aim for 20 or 30 seconds. So now that you've mastered the basic drone, we can try to change the sound of our didgeridoo by modulating a few different things. The most basic way to change the sound of a didgeridoo is just to change the amount of air that you're using in the drum. This will change. This will cause a change in volume. This is what that might sound like. It has that throbbing sound. Another common way to change the sound of your didgeridoo is to move your tongue back and forth. Just flattening out your tongue a little bit towards the front, and then pushing it back and forth. Now there I'm using the same amount of air the whole time. I'm just changing the position of my tongue. It's also possible to point your tongue directly forward and then to move it back and forth, which gives it more of a sharper sound. There it sounds as if the didgeridoo is saying. There's volume by changing the amount of air that I'm using. There's a flat tone. And there's a pointed tone. Another type of way that you can change the sound of your didgeridoo is by storing some air up in one of your cheeks or both of your cheeks, and then using your cheek muscles in order to control the size of the chamber of your mouth. This is what that looks like. Yeah, I can exaggerate this for you by actually using my hand on my cheek. You should have fun with it. You should experiment with all these different parameters. And just try to hold a 20 or 30 second drone, creating a sound of your choice by mixing the sound, the amount of breath that you're using, the shape and position of your tongue, and the size of the chamber of your mouth with your cheeks. Now that you've experimented using your breath, using your tongue, and using your cheeks to create different sounds from your didgeridoo, we can now learn how to use the consonants, our consonant sounds, like t, k, and l, with our tongue in order to create a rhythm with the didgeridoo. These sounds, when you pronounce them, interrupt the airflow in your didgeridoo and cause a very abrupt stop. And when you do this, it's easy to create a rhythm with them. Here's what t sounds like. You hear how sharp that is? Experiment with some different sounds. Here's t, k, l. After you've experimented some, try this pattern. That last sound is where you make your tongue pointed and you push it forward. If you can push it forward with the right velocity, you can even get your didgeridoo to sound as if it's barking a little bit. You hear that? Now that you've mastered the consonant sounds and modulating the sound of your drone, you can experiment with some of the other extended techniques associated with didgeridoo. Now, there's no real standard set of these techniques, and they've been found by the Aborigines over hundreds and hundreds of years, and even by casual players. So the best way to find this, I feel, is just to experiment with your didgeridoo and have fun with it. Some of the more common sounds that you'll hear involve using your voice. If you can manage to play a drone and vocalize, to sing at the same time, then you will get an interesting beat going on in your drone. This is a simple drone with a high-pitched tone. You can hear the original tone of the drone, but as for that second note, it's not exactly clear, is it? It's more of a sound in and of itself. Now, you can also try to use the consonant sounds and use your voice at the same time in order to create a rhythm, and also to create different sounds with your voice. Here's the cuckoo-cabra, which is a bird, and it might sound something like this on a didgeridoo. One of my favorites to do is the cricket. What you'll want to do is you'll want to try to roll your tongue with the higher pitch in your voice, all the while crooning. So here's the sound of the cricket in the didgeridoo. Can you hear the cricket that got stuck in this pipe? I can. Here's a bear. The bear has a much lower voice. So just have fun with it and experiment with different things and try to discover sounds on your own. Another very common practice in didgeridoo playing is to tighten your lips up very close together, sort of as if, like when you were first playing and maybe you played the didgeridoo too tightly and the sound that came out was like a trumpet. If you can master the trumpet sound to the point where you can mix it fluently in with your didgeridoo playing and incorporate it into your rhythms and into your drones, then you can get some very interesting results. So here's the sound of the overtone just by itself. Some didgeridoo players are very good and can master 7 discrete overtones. The overtones, their pitches follow the harmonic series. The first one, I believe, is an octave above the drone, and the next one a fifth above that, and so on and so forth. So try to experiment with these trumpet tones and try to incorporate them into your rhythms. Here you can see I switched didgeridoos. This one is made out of maple. Now, didgeridoos aren't normally made out of maple, but this actually does sound very nice. This has a very warm sound to it, and let me demonstrate this for you. Any didgeridoo that's made out of wood will naturally absorb some of the sound that's coming from your lips into this pipe here. So there's less of a reverberant sound. You can compare it to this PVC didgeridoo that I was playing earlier. You can probably hear the difference, right? Now this last didgeridoo is made out of agave cactus. And that's the sound of the agave. Now that you've heard the sounds of some different didgeridoos, let's practice the techniques that we've learned already. Using our cheeks, our tongue, and the amount of air that we're using the different techniques that we've learned with the tongue to produce a rhythm, and using our voice and tongue rolling.
Yeah.